The purpose of this video is to show you how you can use your graphing calculator to solve equalities of absolute value problems. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to your y equals, and you want to plot the left side in y1. So you want to plot absolute value. So the place where you find absolute value is if you push math, you will notice you get this screen. Scroll over to number and you will see absolute value right there in number 1. So you can push 1 or you can push enter, it doesn't matter. If you have an older calculator, instead of getting the nice straight absolute value bars on both sides, you'll get ABS with the parentheses. Doesn't really matter, it's the same thing. So now we're going to put in negative 2x, and if I scroll outside, then that means now I have negative 2x inside my absolute value mark. So that was the left side of my equation. Now I'm going to look at the right side of my equation, which is 12. So in y2 I'm going to put 12. So I'm going to go ahead and graph, and you will notice that that's my absolute value of negative 2x, but I'm not seeing any intersection, and that's because my window isn't the proper size. If you notice, this is looking for a value of 12. Now that's going to be my y, remember, because I put that in y equals. So I'm going to go to my window and I'm going to change my y. Right now my y is on maximum of 4, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to change it. I'm not going to change it to 12. Let's make it something a little bit bigger, like 15. So let's go back and look at our graph and see if we can see the intersection. And there we are. We have an intersection right here on the left and an intersection right here on the right. So now I want to find out what the value is right here. I'm looking for my value of x. I know my y is 12 because that's the line y equals 12. So I want to find my value of x, which is down here. So the way to do it is to, I'm going to go second trace, which is really calculating, and I'm going to go to number 5 and I'm going to look for the intersection. So I'm going to just push number 5. So let me point out a couple things here. Notice up here at the top, it's telling me what the equation is that my cursor is on. Right now it's on the absolute value of negative 2x. It asks me first curve, and it tells me where my cursor is. It's at 0, 0. So I want to get this point right here. So I'm going to move my cursor closer. So I'm going to push my left arrow, and I'm just going to get closer to the point that I want. I don't have to be right on it. Close is good enough. So now I'm going to push enter. So now notice it leaves a mark where I was and my cursor where I want to be on my line y equals 12. It's asking me about the second curve. Is that the second curve I'm interested in? Yes. So I push enter. Then it asks me if I want to guess. I don't ever guess. I just push enter again. So notice it says the intersection is where x is negative 6 and y is 12. So that means one of my answers for problem number 1 would be x is negative 6. So I'm going to write that right here. X equals negative 6. Okay, but we had another answer, don't we? We have an answer right here. So I'm going to go through the whole process again. I'm going to do second trace because I'm in fact calling up the calculate. I want to do the intersection, so I push 5. But this time I want to be over here. So notice that I'm on the absolute value. See, it's moving down the absolute value. Tells me I'm on y1, which is my absolute value. So I'm going to move close to the intersection that I want. That's good enough. I'm going to push enter. So now it asks me second curve. It tells me what curve it's on. My line y2 equals 12. And that's close to the point that I want. So I'm going to push enter. I never guess. I push enter again. And I just happen to get 6 right here. X is 6 when y is 12. So that means that my x can also be 6. So those are my two answers for that problem using the calculator. Let's do another one. Let's go ahead and look at, I guess let's look at number 4. So for number 4, I'm simply going to go y equals, I'm going to clear what I have there. I'm going to clear both y values. So now I'm going to put in 4 absolute values. Remember, I go math, number, absolute value, and I'm going to put in x plus 1. It doesn't matter that here it says z, x, y. It doesn't really matter in this case. And then I have to make sure that I either close my parentheses if you have an older version calculator, or go outside the absolute value. So this is x plus 1 is on the inside, just as the z plus 1 is on the inside here. So now y is going to equal 24. So I'm going to put in 24. And just as we had in the last problem, I am not going to be able to see my y is 24. So I can go ahead and I can change my window, or I could do zoom. Let's try zoom this time. So this time I'm going to do zoom, and there's such a thing called zoom fit. So I'm going to scroll down. Right there is zoom fit. So I'm going to push enter, and hopefully it works. It doesn't always work. Okay, so there we go. So we can see here that my y-axis got really squished. But what's nice about zoom fit is sometimes, not always, it will let you see the whole picture. So notice I have an answer here and an answer here. So just like I did before, I want to find my x value down here when my y is 24. So I'm going to go second, calculate my intersection, which is 5. I'm going to do the one on the left. Be consistent. So I usually like to do the one on the left first, and then the one on the right. So I've already done my first curve there. It's asking me for my second one. So I push enter, enter, and then it tells me the intersection is where x is -7. That makes y 24. So that's one of my answers. So I can now write z is equal to -7, and then I'm going to find my other answer. So I'm going to do the process again. I'm going to go second, calc, intersection, number 5. But this time I want to look at the one on the right. So I have to move my cursor over close to the point where I want it. So I push enter, and that is asking me for second curve. It tells me the equation up there. I push enter, enter, and now it's right on the intersection. So that side is where x is 5. So that would be my other answer here. Or z equals 5. So those are my two answers to that problem. Let's do one more. Let's do, I guess it doesn't really matter. Let's do problem 11, because that one looks pretty ugly. It's really not that bad. So again, I'm going to go to y equals. I'm going to clear out everything in my y's, and I'm going to put in just what I see on the left. 2, math, number, absolute value, 4x plus 1. Okay, so that looks just like it does on the left. And I'm going to go down to y2, and I'm going to put in 4x plus 10. And And I'm going to go ahead and graph. So that's my first function, my absolute value. My computer locked me out. There's my absolute value, and then right here is the line 4y plus 10. So you can see I have an intersection here and an intersection here. So I'm going to find my intersection. So I'm going to do second trace, and I'm going to find my intersection, number 5. And let's do the one on the left so we're consistent. So I'm close to the one on the left. I'm on my first curve. Now my second curve. I'm just pushing enter until I get my answer. So my intersection is where x is -1, y is the value 6. So right here, x should be -1, should be an answer. In this case, y equals -1. So let's try the other intersection. So I'm going to do second trace, intersection, number 5. I'm going to move over to the right side. I'm going to push enter, 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 and I have an intersection where x equals 2. Okay, I'm writing y because in my equation it's y. Okay, so let's do one more thing. Let's test to see if this is in fact the right answers. Remember, they're asking for extraneous. Because my calculator gave me the answers, I shouldn't have anything that's extraneous. But let's just do this because it's good practice. So I'm going to go ahead and quit this screen, and I'm going to set my x value so that it equals -1. So I'm going to do -1, and I put that in, and then I'm going to push the store button right here, store, and I'm going to push x, and then I'm going to push enter. So your calculator will look something like this. So now wherever there is an x, it's taking on the value of -1. So I'm going to do a test. So I'm going to enter this in exactly how I see it. 2, and I'm going to put in the absolute value. So I go to math, number, absolute value, and then I'm going to put in 4x plus 1, and I'm going to go outside my absolute value. Now I need to put in that equal sign. So I get that equal sign by doing a test. So there's my test. So I'm going to do second math, and you'll see that I get these symbols. Well, I want an equal sign, so I'm going to put number 1, and then I'm going to just put in 4y, in this case 4x, plus 10. Okay, so if -1 is in fact an answer, remember 0 means no and 1 means yes. So I get a 1, and that means that -1 is in fact an answer that satisfies this equation. So let's try the second one. So again, I'm going to put in the number 2, store, x, enter. So then my screen looks like that, and then I'm going to put in the equation again. So I can do 2 math, number, absolute value, 4x plus 1, get outside that absolute value or close your parentheses if you have an older calculator. I'm going to do second math, and I'm going to put in my equal sign, and then I'm going to put in 4x plus 10. So if this is in fact, if 2 is in fact an answer that satisfies the equation, I should get a 1, and I do. So both -1 and 2 satisfy this equation. We were able to do the whole thing on the calculator. One last thing that I'd like to say about this is In this case, notice we only have one variable. So that variable could have been x, it could have been a, it could have been n. That is why I didn't really care if it was a y or an x, and I used the x on my calculator because I only have one variable. I cannot do that if I have two or more variables. I cannot do what I just did in the calculator. I would have to do something completely different.